Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we are talking about New Year's resolutions for marketers in 2024.
Okay, we try and do this every year. And I was trying to look back and see how many of them are the same as they've always been. And there's always a handful of things that come out. It's like, why are people not doing this? We really should be focusing on this. But actually, there's quite a lot of new things in here as well, which I think is really interesting, like what we should be focusing on. And really, this kind of reflects what's new, but it also reflects, wait a minute, take a step back. What are the things that we should be doing that we're just not doing? So there's a couple. They're in no particular order. And I think that the top one at the moment on this list is particularly relevant. So it says, review your tools costs, ! Okay. At the moment, it's very easy to sign up for things because there's so many new tools out there, particularly with all the AI stuff, right? You go, I'll sign up for that and I'll test it out. And I'll sign up for that and test it out. And then you kind of forget and then you don't unsubscribe to them and it adds up. Now, we did a recent audit on this as well. My Lord, does it add up as well? It's incredible. So we've started doing it on a regular basis now that you go through, you review them all, and then if you haven't used them in the last 6 weeks, they go. So if you're just not using them regularly, they completely go. There's a few exceptions to that as well. So I would definitely look at it. The other clever thing you can do is you can just change all of your credit cards.
Just cancel your credit card.
Yeah. So if you change your credit card numbers, obviously a lot of these will stop renewing from that point of view, and then you can kind of see what you actually do use. And you start getting those emails saying, your credit card payment didn't go through. If you don't do this, you will lose access to the tool. And you're like, oh, good.
Oh, no.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
It's high risk, though.
Well,
suddenly
it is.
The AdWords campaign.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, it's like, oh, someone seems to have switched off HubSpot. This seems to be a bit of a problem.
So one of my clients, their Amex card, which everything is on, their gold Amex card, is expired over Christmas.
Right.
No, you don't want that.
Yeah, and this happens. So yeah, so maybe it's a slightly risky strategy. So maybe don't do that. Yeah. But yeah, certainly start reviewing those.
Get prepared for it. I think. Like what you do is you check you change your credit card, you check your core systems, all the things that are business critical, and then you brainstorm and try and come up with all the others. I mean, the easiest way of doing this is literally to go through the credit card statement.
Well, we just go through Xero. We go through our financing stuff, and this is what we tag it.
And you'll see them all in. Like, what is this? Who's this for? And until everything's got an explanation for it, like don't move forward with it. But be quite hard nosed because I think it's a great way actually of building up a bit of a war chest, inevitably for the new tools that you need. You know, why we're all coping with budgets either same on same year on year. Most people's budgets aren't growing exponentially to cover a whole new bunch of things. And actually, nip those costs in the bud, you can win.
Right, with these little kind of hygiene factors as well, but update all your 2023 content. This is the best digital marketing trends of 23. Don't necessarily change those ones, but there's the way to do SEO in 2023, update it so it's 2024 stuff, or whatever year it may be when you're listening to this now.
12 reasons for buying X in.
Yeah, and it's really easy for that content to do really well. And the second that I see it's got a year out of date, I'm not going to bother clicking on it. That will decrease your click-through rate in Google. That will push your stuff down the search rankings. So really important to go through and audit all that stuff as well.
You might even find you've got references to the year in your main menu nav.
Yeah.
Oh, get that changed.
Yeah.
Get that changed.
Yeah, and that little copyright notice at the bottom of your website, make sure you update those. It always gets missed as well.
But would you, if it does quite well on the search rankings, would you recommend changing the page content, or like we do sometimes where we create a new updated blog post?
I would do an updated version. I would put that on either put a redirect, say this is where that version now lives. What we quite often do is if we've got a 2023 version, at the top we said we have now created a 2024 version, read this one. And we do that on a separate page as well. Oddly, because the way the Google rankings work, they seem to like to drive people to previous versions that have got loads of engagement. So you just want to signal to the user when they get there, or you put a redirect in place. But you put the redirect, you're going to get a dip. So it's definitely worth kind of thinking about, but you just need to make it right from a user experience as well. In line with that, I'm jumping around in these. I'm just making it more difficult for you guys, I realise. But there's a thing in here about keep a diary of what you engage with. Okay, so I was thinking about social media, thinking, what should we do differently? And I thought, well, we could do this, I had all these different ideas. And then I thought, okay, well, my target audience is people like me to some extent, just want to keep up to date with digital marketing. What is it that I engage with? And then what I did is I kept some notes. And every time I engage with social media, I go, oh, okay, right, what am I looking at? And I started to draw out very, very quickly the key kind of things. One, I watch a lot of rubbish on Reels. I mean, it's unbelievable how much stuff I get drawn into on Reels watching.
See, they're just recycled TikToks.
This is my daughter makes me laugh on this.
I probably watched them 2 months earlier.
Yeah, right. I was going to say that's exactly it, right. So it's just that this whole thing that Reels is just TikToks from 2 months ago was the kind of feeling. So keeping up to date. I think the thing is, because it's baked into Instagram that I'm on a fair bit, therefore I end up kind of seeing these things, and it distracts me from what I was doing very often. But what I also noticed is like I want something that provides value and education there and then. So if I see a little tutorial, I'll go, oh, that's quite interesting. I'll go through it. Or if I've got, a Twitter thread or an X thread that goes through and basically tells me 12 ChatGPT prompts that I'm going to go through and read that, and it really feels like it's provided some value. So rather than doing the 1 minute excerpt of the video that makes me think, oh, I should watch the whole thing, if that 1 minute excerpt gives me something of value, then I'm a lot happier with that. So I started to. So keep a diary of what you're doing. If you aren't your target audience, try and get someone else to do it for you. Just ask them to write down, okay, you're a target. What are the 10 things that you interacted with over the last few days, and just find out, and that can be useful. Now that brings me into another one here that I really don't think we do enough of, which is user testing. Go on, Kieran, put us straight on this one.
It's all tied up with that conversion rate optimization thing, isn't it? And look, as marketers, we're terrible at just throwing more money at the more traffic.
Yeah,
that's one way to do it, but that's very expensive. Yeah. And why not just improve the conversion rate you get on the existing traffic that you have? No additional outlay of costs, but when you do that, you increase the ROI on all of your channels. Yeah. So why on earth wouldn't you want to make that a top priority? Like seriously, if you want to prioritize profit this year from a marketing ROI perspective, this is the number one way that you can do that. But it requires, more than paying lip service to it, more than, oh yeah, no, we do CRO. And with user testing, what you're doing is you're taking some common scenarios that lots of people go through. So it might be, I've got an e-commerce site, it might be to buy a pair of trainers. Or I've got a B2B site, it might be to complete a web to lead form, right? To get whatever it is that's being dangled in front of you to do that. Get some users, get them into an environment where you can record their thoughts and what they do on the screen. Give them some simple tasks like that to complete, and get 5 or 6 of them in a room separately. Explain to them that you actually don't really rate the current website. You want to try and find some improvements on it. So you're not, they're not worried about treading on your toes or offending you.
Yeah, right.
Just give it to me as it is, because I really want to know what you think, and I want you to talk me through your thought processes. Yep. Just that whole process can really uncover some real humdinger, brilliant, low-hanging fruits. Like, oh my gosh, what they want is this, and what we do is that.
Right. Oh, this is confusing them. Yeah. I tell you what. Whenever I've done user testing, I'm like, why aren't we doing this more often? Because it does really draw out some things. I mean, if you take the usability principles, the definition of usability, which I'm now going to catch myself out on, is basically how a specified user, so my target persona, can use a specified product, website, app, particular section of the website or app, in a specified context. Why are they trying to do it? With efficiency, could they do it quickly? Effectiveness, could they actually complete it? And satisfaction, did they like doing it? And that's basic. I got that right. I was amazed. That's what you're testing is, can this target audience do this particular thing? Now, the stat that I always come back to is if you test with 5 people of that specified user group, you will identify 85% of the problems. Yeah. Again and again, this kind of comes out. So it doesn't need to be huge. It's not tens of thousands of people. It's just 5 people walking through doing the same thing. And you'll go, oh, in common, 4 of them or 3 of them had a problem with this bit of it. Let's improve it.
And it's just even because you spend so much time around your brand and you're on your website every single day, you become completely blind.
No, you're completely blind to it. And that's exactly
it. This is also in your best interest, guys. Everyone listen to this, right? You know that if you spend more money on ads and you get results, the organization is going to go, great, spend even more money on ads, right? You do not benefit from that. Right, but get to that end of year appraisal or quarterly appraisal. So how have you been doing? What have you contributed this year? Well, this year I did this and it resulted in that, which equates to this much revenue, this much improvement in efficiency. That is a very great way of nailing your colours to the mast and saying, I did this.
Yeah.
This is me. I've added value.
I've added value, not I've spent money.
Cost of living crisis. Everybody's struggling. If you need to make an argument that you're better and worth more, that is the number one way to do it. And if they don't accept that, you can take what you've achieved there into any interview and impress the eyebrows off everybody on that interview panel, because you're able to give hard and fast numbers. And I can't stress this enough. I don't know how more to say this. Invest in conversion rate optimization. And if you're really not familiar with that, getting an agency that can help you to achieve that is just as good. You can still claim the wins.
So with that, I would say another one I've got on here is test the small stuff. And this feels in line with this as well. I did some work early this year on looking at testing small stuff, as in the page titles on pages, the meta descriptions, the thumbnails, the images. We did that layout stuff where we added like a top block of color at the end of these articles and so on as well.
Yeah.
It's had a massive impact on search optimization. Because people are getting to the page, they're engaging with it more, they're seeing it in the search results, they're clicking on it more. The knock-on impact of that is actually almost about a 50% improvement in organic search traffic. That our conversion rate has stayed the same, which means we're just getting more conversions off that with only making a few changes. So don't underestimate those little details. When you look at your article and go, right, it's done, push it out the door, go back to it. Imagine yourself reading it going, is this useful? Am I getting value from this? And we don't do that enough, which is in line with user testing, conversion rate optimization, changing the subheadings within a particular piece of content. That's the stuff that actually can make a really big difference because the way the Google algorithm works.
I was listening to an interview with someone from Stephen Bartlett's team at Driver CEO, and they were saying even every podcast video they put out on YouTube, they're testing like 100 thumbnails.
Yeah.
And they're repeatedly doing that for every piece of content that they put out.
Yeah, and this is it. And you don't even need to get to that extent, but you just certainly need to go, is this actually a good user experience? Rather than just like, get it out the door, done, get it out the door, done.
You've got to constantly be iterating.
Yeah, exactly that, 100%. Okay, another one in line with this. How many of us have actually got dashboards with our core KPIs, including web analytics, channel analytics, and content analytics all in one place? Not that many, I would suggest. So the idea that you bring in the core bits you need from your GA4, maybe the core things that you need from each of your different, email, your social media channels, maybe your content analytics, what you've got from your podcast, from your videos, but having it in a dashboard where we can all look at it and go, I think it's telling me this, therefore this is what we need to do next. And using that data to drive our tactical decisions and iterate those tactical decisions, rather than having to go 50 different systems and not being able to do that. So I think that's something that's missing, and we've had that for a while.
It really helps you see the wood for the trees, doesn't it?
And I think it stops you obsessing into the micro detail and then going, oh, I've just lost the big picture here a little bit. Which is why the idea, if you never looked at it, OKRs, objectives and key results. Objectives are qualitative descriptions of what we want to achieve, create an awesome customer experience. And then the key results are no more than 5 KPIs or metrics that if we're doing that, we're doing our job. So you go, okay, customer satisfaction, customer acquisition cost below X, and volume of sales, whatever. And if you go, if we're doing those things, everything else is working. So don't micromanage me, let me get on with it. And that can work quite nicely. I've mentioned it before, there's a guy called Philippe Castro. If you Google up, we'll put it into the show notes, targetinternet.com/podcast. We will put it in there, but he's got a great website with some free ebooks and things on there as well. So we'll do that. Couple more. Do 10x. What do I mean by that? I do this exercise when I run digital marketing courses where I tell to people, do, Rand Fishkin's 10x thing. You go off, you find the best content out there, and then you create something 10 times better. I'm still not quite sure how you calculate 10 times better, but the principle I understand. And people say, oh yeah, we never look at what's out there when we create something. We don't go, we're going to write an article on this. Let's go and see what's already out there on the topic. Because if you can't do better than what's out there, you shouldn't be bothering doing it.
And this is the problem. Lots of people are using tools to find what the common, popular content is, but they don't actually look at it.
No, right.
And that's a mistake.
And then you
end up with a really mediocre meh.
Then you use AI to write it, and all that's doing is kind of recreating what's already out there to some extent. So you end up just being very average. Volume's there's no quality. So go off and just have a bit of spend some time coming up with some ideas like, how would we do this better? How would we do this differently? And it doesn't need to be radical. I mean, you only need to look at things like BBC Good Food, where they rank #1 for every recipe under the sun, because they've gone and what's the actual user experience? I want to know, does this recipe, I'm going to spend some time doing this. Is this recipe any good? I want to see star ratings. Right, so reviews front and center. I want a video, so I don't need to keep scrolling. I can watch the video, but I want pauses between each of the steps, so I can wash my hands and dry my hands, so I don't cover my iPad in whatever I'm cooking with. It's just thinking about that user experience of like, and it's got all the ingredients, but what if I'm celiac? What, can I replace those ingredients, etc.? Yeah. So they've just thought through, no friction, no scrolling through 400 ads to actually get to the recipe.
So easy to do. Right. Do you remember my knot tying course?
Yes, I do remember this.
So years ago, I wanted a bit of free content. This was before Rand had come up with 10X. Yeah, so I didn't realise I was sort of following some of the steps he was recommended, but I was. So I recognised actually we need to create some free online content to hook people into our short sailing courses. So we came up with this idea of, well, let's teach people how to tie some good old salty sea dog knots.
Yeah, right.
Because knot tying's fun and easy to teach. And one of the things we went and looked at were 30, 40 different videos on YouTube showing how to tie the knots. And what I found was one of the fundamental problems is if I video me tying a knot, Louise, my left and right hands are back to front for you. And it's really confusing. And one person had done a video showing the camera overhead. I'm like, eureka.
Yeah.
That is the way to do this. So we shot our own videos, but we used that technique. I did nearly kill the chief instructor because I was literally holding a it wasn't very safe. Health and safety.
Health and safety back then wasn't your thing, was it? You remember you
Not
passing
really.
The first time we met, you nearly died because you'd been passing a massive thing between two moving ships.
And they hadn't told me they had it, so I held on to it and I ended up dangling off the
between two
side
boats
of a BT challenge boat in the water. The skippers, they weren't happy. They weren't happy at all. I didn't realise how dangerous it was until they got me aboard and told me. Yeah,
but anyway, before health and safety existed in the dark ages.
I was young and foolish and did these things. But that's an example of go and look at the content and work out what's good. How have some people done it better? And then when you add it together, all these little things. Oh, let's have an infographic and let's do this and let's do that. Just the fact that you've aimed at 10x makes your content better, significantly raises the bar. Yeah. And in a world where 60% of internet users are using Google Chrome, where all of those users have opted into Google using their data to work out what's popular, this makes a huge amount of difference to how quickly your content can rise up to top, because Google are getting user signals. Gosh, people really love this stuff because actually it is kind of best in class because you've looked at all the other stuff. And it's not hard to even find the top 10 things. Just Google it. Well, it's pretty good measure.
Let's tie this in with something else then, because, and I haven't put it on here, but this just comes to mind of something I was talking about yesterday. The knowledge graph has been around for a long time within search. So the knowledge graph is connecting the dots between entities. Like you've got Target Internet, you've got the Digital Marketing Podcast, there's a connection. And then Daniel, there's a connection between me and the company and me and the podcast, but there's a connection between me and Imperial College and me and the Chartered Institute of Marketing. So that's the knowledge graph. Now that Google are really focused on EAT, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust, how do they know those things? They know them through the knowledge graph to some extent. They know, okay, well, that's been on the podcast and it's been on there and it's been spoken about by this person. And he's quite trusted because he's a lecturer at Imperial College. And so it makes those connections and it helps uplift those kind of things as well. So think about the entities within your organization, the people, the products, the websites, the locations, and give some clarity on those things. So if you've got people on your website, they should have a bio. That should have details. That should link out to the places where they're doing other things as well. If they're speaking at conferences, events, you should try and get links through to the website so you can see that clarity. Because all of this, when you talk about those signals that users are giving, well, you've got the user signals, then you've got this knowledge graph connections. And by joining those things together, Google could do much more subtle ways of understanding, is this good content or not? Is it authoritative? Does it show experiences in it? Have they got expertise? Are they trusted? And so on. So just thinking that process through and going, what is this telling Google? What is this behavior telling Google? And that makes a big difference.
It sort of triple bakes in success.
Yeah.
Because you've done your homework and you're just creating better content.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple other things on here. First party data. Go on, talk us through why that's so important. So we know that third-party cookies are disappearing.
Yeah, I just think it's the new gold rush, really. With the demise of the third-party cookie, there aren't lots of little magic algorithmic buttons we can press to go, let's stalk the hell out of this profitable customer or even this profitable type of customer. A lot of that data has just been removed from the atmosphere. It's just no longer there to connect with. And so your own first party data is absolutely critical. And we've spoken about this before, but this is about, really thinking about what audiences are we going to build within our analytics? What are we going to connect up to our ad campaigns? And actually audience data can be connected in a whole variety of ways. Most platforms allow you to export names or email addresses and sometimes even phone numbers and physical addresses. And that then can be used to target known users on other platforms.
But it's also anonymized in many cases.
Yeah,
This is the thing to understand is that if you take your email addresses and you give them, you can hash them.
Yep.
So basically Google will take them, they'll anonymize it, and then they'll compare it with unanonymized data to work out it's the same person. So they found a way around some of the challenges.
They have. Well, they're never able to get 100% match rate. Like at best case scenario, like 55, 60% is really good match rate on these, but you never know which ones have been matched, right? But what you've got is a very valuable audience targeting set there. So you don't know, I know you were in the original upload, Louise, but I wouldn't know whether you made it past that step. It doesn't tell you. And all the data's hashed when it gets transferred. And that, I've seen time and time again, that can make an enormous difference to how well your campaigns perform. You just have to really get smart. And I think you really need to understand the user journey.
Yep.
And think about, well, at this stage, what kind of content do I have that's going to be getting people at that stage? And at that stage, what's an appropriate channel to be using that? The last thing you want to be doing is putting top of funnel kind of C content, like first content, and using a ton of data to like target that sort of content within Google Ads. Google Ads, if anything, it's really what you want is people ready to buy with Google Ads.
Well, let me give you an example.
That's where your ROI is on that.
There's this discussion, gating and non-gating content. If I gate some content, I get your email address, right? That's great. But actually, think about now, most CRM systems, if a code goes onto my website, you'll build up loads of data about me. The second you've got an email address, you can then look at all my behavior going forwards and sometimes going backwards as well. But that means that not all content needs to be gated for me to know you have an interest in it. Because if I just give you a PDF download, you can just click and instantly download. If I've already got your email address, I go, okay, they're interested in that. So I don't need to keep gating stuff to get in the way. Actually, just by encouraging people to download useful things, I understand them a little bit more. I'm in a better position for targeting them more effectively a little bit further down the funnel.
And you can use those audiences, don't require you to have that data. Right. The systems take care of that for you.
Yeah,
so I don't need
Google
to
Ads.
and never underestimate how big an offer you need to make to get hold of someone's email address. That's huge, right? But actually with GA4 audiences, that's so much easier.
Yeah. So get them to download something. And then you can kind of take that data and you can start to build audiences and then you're able to pull that across to Google Ads.
And it's just about really working that funnel. And a lot of you will have campaigns that target different parts of the funnel. It's not a new technique, it's been around for ages, but I really do think using and leveraging on first party data. And the one big thing I think most people aren't doing is really optimizing on those email addresses they collect. I'm really focusing on how can we entice more people to become part of this community or to share that and to share regular information that's very useful and very valuable to them. Building that whole community and having that address. That's the key to your own audiences in a way. If I'm building up audiences that I can use on Google Ads, I'm reliant on Google to give me access to that audience. But if I've got email addresses, I've got direct contact with that audience in many cases, and that's the gold standard. No one can really take that away from you. And I think as a kind of a bit of a security measure, particularly in preparation now for third-party cookie data becoming less and less useful, everybody should be focused on building their communities and their engaged email subscribers.
I love this. So we spend all our time talking about AI, talking about generative large language models, talking about augmented reality. And actually, I don't think we're doing email very well still.
No.
And I think, we've been saying this for years, but I think actually there's a huge opportunity there still, just getting it right. But you have to provide value and not just use it on the sales aspect all the time. Right, we've got time for two more. I'm going to pick one, and then I'm going to say you guys should pick one. I'm going to just say advocates. Right. We worried a lot about influencers, and actually that's fine, and that can work. And if you get it right, you've got to have a healthy cynicism about that. But actually, building advocacy one person at a time. If you've got that one person that always says nice things, that one person that always shares your stuff, that one person that leaves good comments, really treat that person like a VIP. Because then you've got one, then you've got two, and then you've got 100, then you've got 1,000. And the reality is that those people are amplifying what you do in social media. They're showing social kind of trust. There's a lot of things that it really demonstrates.
Really importantly, those people are doing that at scale in ways you can't really measure. Right, this is the thing. You won't see an attribution model that gives you that.
Well,
It's just
not
not
when
there.
someone's talking to their friend or they're at an
No.
event and they mention it to someone as well. I was amazed. We did the Revenue Marketing Summit, and we're going to do an episode on that shortly. And I had 5 people walking down the corridor, and you see someone that you know, and you go, "Oh, hi." They just stopped and went, "Ah." And then their brain go, "I don't know this person. I just know their face from the podcast." And 5 times they were like, "Oh, sorry, I listened to your podcast." And I was like, "Oh, that's amazing." And I made a real effort not to make them feel uncomfortable because they've just said hello to someone they thought they knew, but they didn't. But the point being, right, 1, you've got that level of advocacy already. Now, by the fact we're interacting face to face, we've taken that to a whole new level. So thinking about, yes, it is all your online activities, but other face-to-face by email. Like, we will get replies to our emails, and I'll reply directly from my email address. And they're like, "I wasn't expecting you to reply to this." So that's really powerful. But you need to track it, which means you need to put it into the CRM system that you've got, and you need to go VIP. And you need to say, right, how can we reward this person and thank them? Because it just has a big impact. And it doesn't sound very scalable because we think, "Oh, I want millions of followers." Yeah, but you if you can do this gradually, building that advocacy becomes really important. So I would say have a think about how you might do it in an effective way and what might allow you to scale that a little bit more as well.
It's just one person at a time is very scalable. I found this. My latest thing is when I get in touch with people on LinkedIn.
Yep.
I say, "Look, if you're ever on the Isle of Wight, give me a shout. We'll go for a coffee."
Yeah.
And like just something as simple as that. And why wouldn't I want to do that? That was great.
Yeah.
So guys, if you're listening,
Well, I tell
if
you
you're
what,
on the
that's
Isle of Wight,
Right.
get in touch.
But listen, a lot of our sales outreach that we'll say to people this time of year, "Look, are you planning any of your upskilling stuff next year? Get in contact. Really happy to grab a coffee and just go through what we found has worked." Right. And I think just that humanizing everything is kind of good. But don't be too salesy if you're doing it as well. You can't just sit there just blasting them. Right. I want you guys to pick one more from the list. What are you going to pick?
Oh, I'm going to let Louise pick it because I just talk too much. Come on, Louise. You
Running
pick
a New Year SEO audit.
Which is one of Kieran's ones, which is good.
one of mine. Thanks, Louise.
It's as if you planned that, but you didn't. So there you go.
Because even we did that, and the amount of stuff that came out of it, all the broken links that we fixed.
It's just a good time to do it, isn't it? Like,
it
the
feels like a
problem
good
is
refresh.
normally you get these monthly reports, and you just get used to ignoring them.
Yeah,
because it's
really
like
bad.
there's
You've
no
got 10,000
time.
broken links.
Yeah, there's no time.
We've had 10,000 broken links for ages.
But it's it's a great chance. It's the new year. Dust yourself off, roll your sleeves up, and actually set some targets around this. Okay, and like document them, right? And then it becomes a thing. Like make it a target, and it could be that you delegate that to somebody within your team, and then you just catch up with them regularly on it. But make it a thing, because actually there's an enormous amount that you can achieve just by attending to some of the basics. There's no end of free audit reports that you can run out there. Just to check off the common ones. I mean, the common things I see all the time when companies employ me to run these audits is broken links.
Yep.
It's like not
missing images,
overly big images. Like all of these things, if you get those fixed, can make a real difference to you. And they're not hard to do. They're not even that particularly technical.
No.
And it might tackle those things first. And actually, if you do a little bit every week,
that's what you
little
did,
bit every
you were
month,
just working through them gradually. I mean, tools of preference for this?
So I mean, I'm a massive fan of SE ranking just because it's one of the most capable tools and definitely the most affordable in my opinion.
What's the frog one for audit?
Screaming Frog's very good. Yeah, so Screaming Frog. Yeah, Screaming Frog's so good for sorting out all sorts of things. It's a little bit technical, but they've got a ton of
video broken links and stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious, pretty straightforward, right? And actually, the Screaming Frog, you can download it for free on Mac or PC, and you can audit a site up to 500 pages. Yeah. I think like the annual license is only like 140, 150 pounds, which is cheap as chips, really, when you look at the monthly
value
cost.
It gives you, And I like the fact it's a one-off annual license, so you can do it that way as well. So that's good.
But that can help with so many different things. So yeah, I use that all the time.
Okay, so let us know what your New Year's resolutions for marketing have been. As ever, all of those links are in the show notes, targetinternet.com/podcast. And we have got masterclasses, little half-day courses, £100 to attend, so we're making them affordable for everyone, on GA4, on ChatGPT, on all these different topics. So come and join us for those if you're interested. We'd love to see you on one of those courses. Thanks for listening, as ever, to the Digital Marketing Podcast.
Please subscribe for more videos like this and visit targetinternet.com for more free digital marketing resources.